This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Final pitch. Today is the last day of campaigning for party leaders before Nova Scotians head to the polls.
Lobster safety. We look at the measures in place to keep fishermen safe as they prepare for dumping day.
And making history. For the first time, the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame inducts someone from North Preston, two cousins.
A quiet day shaping up for Tuesday. We'll see the winds light and some sunshine in the mix before our next system rolls in Tuesday night into Wednesday. Your full timeline is coming up.
Good evening. It is provincial election eve, and that means the last day of campaigning.
Each party leader gave their final push to voters today. We begin with PC leader Tim Houston, who talked about his government's track record. He says a free school lunch program, new public and affordable housing units, and healthcare investments have made an impact.
This province is on a good path, and we as a government are executing on our plans, and it is making a difference. It's making a difference in healthcare. We already have over 300 additional new doctors working in this province since we took office in 2021.
Liberal leader Zach Churchill says they offer the best deal. They promised to close the fixed-term lease loophole, create a residential tenancies enforcement unit, and a bank that provides loans to renters.
And voters need to ask themselves, is Mr. Houston's plan working where corporate profits are soaring and renters are evicted? Voters also need to ask themselves if Ms. Chender's plan is going to work.
NDP leader Claudia Chender also emphasized her party's plans for affordable housing and healthcare. They promised thousands of affordable housing units, rent control, and primary care clinics with doctors throughout Nova Scotia.
The conversation we are having is to tell folks that we will actually put you first. We are not beholden to the same friends and donors that Tim Houston and Zach Churchill before him and that government are.
Meanwhile, Elizabeth May, the leader of the federal Green Party, was in Halifax over the weekend to give her provincial counterpart a final push. The party and leader Anthony Edmonds have candidates in fewer than half the province's electoral districts.
Public polls suggest Nova Scotia's progressive Conservatives are set to win a second term and gain seats. If they win at least 2/3 of the seats at Province House, they'll form a supermajority government. Taryn Grant explains what that means.
Tim Houston's PC party was ahead in the polls at the start of this campaign. 4 weeks later, the latest polls suggest they now have an even stronger lead ahead of the other parties in Nova Scotia. It means they could be on their way to forming a supermajority in Tuesday's election. A supermajority is when the governing party holds at least 2/3 of the seats at Province House. That means 37 or more seats out of Nova Scotia's 55-seat legislature. A supermajority government can change procedural rules at Province House without cooperation from the opposition. During their first 3 years in government, the PCs had more than half the seats, giving them a simple majority. They were able to turn bills into law with relative ease. But opposition parties did use some delay tactics. It frustrated the government, but ultimately the opposition couldn't stop any legislation from passing. With a supermajority, the PCs could get rid of the rules that allow the opposition to prolong debate and slow things down. Houston says a larger majority could also help him win fights in Ottawa.
After this election is over and the PC party has a fresh new mandate, those voices of the opposition will be minimized, I hope, and Ottawa will have to take the government of the day seriously.
Dalhousie political science professor Laurie Turnbull says she expects the polls are correct and the PCs are headed for a big win. But who will form the opposition?
The real question, I think, is who of the NDP and the Liberals will end up coming first, and if that's going to be by a lot or if they're going to be essentially tied.
For Acadia political science professor Erin Crandall, another question is how many people will actually vote? She says when polling indicates a runaway victory for one party, some voters are deterred. They feel like the results are predetermined.
If one of the headlines on the day after the election is historically low turnout in this Nova Scotia election, I wouldn't be surprised. I hope not, right? We hope not, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Crandall says there's also the challenge of voter fatigue after the recent municipal election, and the possibility that some Nova Scotians might not even know an election is happening since it was called 8 months early. Taryn Grant, CBC News, Halifax.
And with just over 24 hours before the polls close, Elections Nova Scotia says early voter turnout is strong, but slightly down compared to the last provincial election. As of Saturday, 147,000 early ballots have been cast. That's compared with just over 166,000 at the same point in the 2021 election. Meanwhile, just below 113,000 voted early in 2017.
And tomorrow night, we'll be live from the legislature for Nova Scotia Votes, our election special, starting when the polls close at 8 p.m. Atlantic time. Tom and I will be joined by Paul Withers and Michael Gorman, along with reporters stationed across the province and a panel of political experts.
You can watch the special on your TV, on CBC Gem, our Nova Scotia YouTube page, and on our website. We'll also be live on CBC Radio 1 and CBC Listen. And wouldn't it be nice if we had some good weather on Election Day in Nova Scotia?
Yes, after a very rainy weekend.
Yeah, that's right. And it is timing out nicely. We are going to be seeing that rain clearing away. Tuesday for Election Day does look nice and quiet across the province. Our next system not arriving until Tuesday evening into the overnight after polls have closed for the most part. You can see temperatures out there ranging between 6 and 8 degrees for your Tuesday forecast, 7 to 9 degrees across Cape Breton. The winds becoming light into the afternoon, and overall a great day to get out and hit the polls. So that's some good news there. Now, I talked about that next system. You can see some isolated risk of a shower here in the northeast this evening. Tomorrow looks nice and quiet. And then as we move into the Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday evening time frame, there's that next system moving in for the overnight. Wednesday morning, some lingering showers with this system. That's going to move its way out, and we'll see, again, clearing from west to east across the province throughout Wednesday afternoon. Systems come, systems go. Back into a more favorable type pattern, and so that will open the door for a little bit more sunshine for us in the coming days, including Thursday morning. Clouds building back in for Thursday. And this is the next system, which is going to be a little interesting across the Maritimes. We've got some snow on the leading edge of this, likely for New Brunswick, but even for places like the Cobequid Pass, higher terrain areas of Nova Scotia, especially in the north, we could see some slushy accumulation Thursday night into Friday morning. And so that Friday morning commute could be a little, again, on the interesting side. We'll talk about that more with your 7-day
Always
forecast
another system,
coming up.
isn't there, Ryan?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, high seas and blustery winds have delayed dumping day in southwestern Nova Scotia's lobster fishery. It's the country's most lucrative fishery, with 1,800 boats racing out to mark their favorite fishing spots. The CBC's Brett Ruskin has more on this key time for the fishing industry each year.
All right, it's going to be loud. It's going to be a little scary. Okay.
That's me being hoisted up out and over the Atlantic Ocean to a cormorant helicopter flying overhead. It's how rescue crews might pick up someone in distress from a fishing boat and carry them to safety. A service fishing crews hope they'll never need, but rescuers are always ready to provide.
Hey, who am I talking to?
Each one of those rescues starts here, the Joint Rescue Coordination Center in Halifax. Each year, this one office handles more than 2,000 cases. If your ship is sinking and you dial 911, this is where your call ends up.
Maybe the vessel's taking on water and our C-130 can come in and maybe drop a pump to them to help them with the water egress.
That's what happened in 2016 with this fishing vessel. Watch how this pump, released from a C-130 Hercules flying overhead, drifts towards the ship taking on water and lands immediately next to it for the crew to grab. That's just one way they offer help, coordinating a fleet of Coast Guard crews, local responders, helicopters, and planes.
It's very much a work-together atmosphere in here to get the job done.
And getting the job done is extra challenging at the start of lobster season.
The first couple hours are always the most harrowing. There's always most boats that are leaving at the same time. Everybody wants to get out at the same time. The vessels are really chock-a-blocked full of all the traps.
So if something goes wrong out there, it's training here that will help rescue crews be ready. It was back down to the boat for me, with the Coast Guard team and helicopter crew parting ways each ready for their next mission.
One of the largest landlords in Halifax, Killam Apartment REIT, has released its latest financial update. Killam is reporting its largest rental gains on rents being received from new tenants moving into apartments. The company also says the rental market in Atlantic Canada was stronger than in other regions. Andrew Lamb reports.
July to September was a good quarter financially for Halifax-based landlord Killam Apartment REIT, especially when it came to how much it was able to raise rents on new leases. The company owns about 5,700 apartments in Halifax and more than 18,000 across Canada.
Rental increases achieved with new leases are strongest in Halifax, St. John and Moncton.
Across all of its apartments in Canada, Killam increased rents by 20% when new tenants moved in between July and September. And in Halifax, that increase was even higher. There is a 5% rent cap in Nova Scotia, but it only applies when you renew your lease. Real estate consultant Neil Levitt says the company's financial results are an example of the overall trends we've been seeing in recent years.
There continues to be a greater need for housing than we have supply to meet, and that creates an opportunity for for-profit housing providers to raise rents to market prices when they have an opportunity to do so.
In Halifax, Killam reported an average monthly rent of more than $1,400 as of September 30th. That's an annual increase of about 8% and nearly double the increase reported this time last year. Levitt says the rental market this year largely remained the same, but things like a big uptick in housing construction starts could be a sign of change.
It's probably not going to mean anything really material for renters' lives in the near term, but perhaps the beginning of a change in direction.
This associate professor says Killam's financial results point to a need for more public and non-market housing.
There are different research results out there that speak to lower rents being charged by non-market landlords.
CBC asked Killam for comment but did not get a response. The company has said that it helps increase the supply of affordable apartments through programs with the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. Andrew Lamb, CBC News, Halifax.
As the Canada Post strike enters its second week, some small business owners in the province say the work stoppage is halting some of their sales. This is the busiest time of year for Diane Dancewear, a Windsor-based business. Many of their customers are in the U.S. With Canada Post, they pay about $8 to ship a ballet skirt across the border, but now the cost is prohibitive.
Then a week goes by, and then you're like, oh dear. Unfortunately, their Etsy did offer alternative shipping through ShipStation and Chit Chat. But for the smallest parcel, it was still like $25. It was a significant price increase, and so as a company, we can't exactly absorb that cost. We're already trying to run a sale. Things are discounted, so the profit margin is less. And then, of course, you would be, absorbing more of a financial hit with the postage. So that wasn't really possible.
A mediator was appointed to help with negotiations between Canada Post and its union. The sticking points are better wages and working conditions.
A lighthouse in Nova Scotia is shining a little further from the water's edge after being moved due to erosion. The Walton Lighthouse was built on a cliff back in 1873 and is the only surviving lighthouse in Hants County.
We've noted that the erosion has sped up, and it's not in an area that can be protected to reduce erosion or anything like that. So the municipality made the decision, after having budgeted money in their operating budget to make the lighthouse move, they decided this year was the right year to make sure that it's moved before it gets to be in an unsafe position.
The lighthouse is now about 150 feet from its original location. Cole Harbour's Sidney Crosby might have liked a win against the Golden Knights on Saturday.
But it wasn't a total loss. He scored his 600th NHL goal.
He's tumble behind the net. It comes right up to Carlson, looking for Crosby. He scores!
A beauty.
Crosby is now the 21st player to reach that mark. It also makes him the 7th player in NHL history to score all 600 goals with just one team.
Crosby, playing in career game number 1,295, also surpassed Patrice Bergeron for the 18th most games played with one franchise in NHL history.
All right, there's a peek at Province House. So Ryan will be back next with his weather forecast. Former professional football player Dwayne Provo and heavyweight boxing champ Kirk Johnson have a lot in common. They were both recently inducted into the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame, one of the highest tributes in sport.
The new Hall of Famers are also both from North Preston, and they're cousins. The CBC's Elizabeth Chu sat down with Provo and Johnson to hear their reflections on the honor.
Can we have Kirk Johnson come to the stage, please? Could we have Mr. Dwayne Provo come to the stage?
That night was phenomenal.
It was. Didn't want the night to end.
No.
It was wonderful.
My name is Kirk Johnson, Canadian sensation. Oh no, Kirk Johnson, and professional boxer.
Presenting the number 4 ranked heavyweight in the world, the undefeated Kirk Johnson.
The son of Gary and Violet Johnson, a grandson of Mayola Johnson, a grandson of Emma Frazier. I'm one of the sons of North Preston.
Kirk started, so I'll do the second piece.
For about 10 years in the CFL, it was unwise to throw the ball to any receiver being defended by Dwayne Provo.
The son of Lila and Donald Provo, grandson Evelyn and Donald, as well as Frank and Mary Kane. And we're related on my grandmother's side to the Johnsons, so Evelyn. Also, as I found out the other night, not a bad football athlete as well. Did a little bit of that for 8 years in the CFL and NFL, and started on the roads here in North Preston, the place where we call home. And yeah, as Kirk says, a son of North Preston. You know, I just want to say that Hall of Fame event brought back a flood of memories, a flood of good memories. When I say good memories are just not just the plays, but the people, but also it brought back memories of things that we've overcome along the way, right?
Definitely. Daddy was in my mind, he was a super dad. You know what I'm saying? He worked every day. He left the house at 5 in the morning and got home at 5:30, and then he took us to the gym. We got extra training because the gym closes at 9 o'clock. Man, we were leaving the gym at 10:30, 11 o'clock. But
the edge,
you know,
the edge.
Yeah. I mean, Daddy say it's the. I'll say it again. You said it's the edge.
It's the edge.
You know, anytime you set goals, you know, that high, and you tend to, you know, appreciate them once you get there. And so, if you look at it in that aspect of it, then it is a dream for me.
You know, when I look back and I see the sacrifices that my parents have made, I think I spoke the other day about my dad not really seeing him during the week because he was gone before I got up and not home until after we were in bed, and see him on the weekends. And so we do special stuff and work really hard to create opportunity for us and it wasn't even about the sport, just to live.
Yep.
Where does he get all this athletic ability anyway?
It's certainly not from me.
Is it from you?
Well, maybe. I never had a chance.
When you're in a marginalized community where you don't have much, those sacrifices are even greater and even bigger.
I mean, Dwayne is talking nothing but the truth.
Yeah.
Sports helped me out because I was a kid at the time, an overly big kid as far as I'm concerned. Was never fat, always muscle, but I was a big kid.
Yeah.
But we moved into the city. I was like 2 years old, and I did my first year in the city in Hawthorne School, and for us, we had racism.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to get negative, but it's the truth. And a lot of people laughed at us and whatever. When I'm at the gym, I'm always comfortable. When I'm around boxing, I'm always comfortable. And it just made me safe, gave me a place where I fit in at. People didn't look at me as, oh, you're too big, or laugh at me in school. They were with me at the boxing gym. I had a team at the boxing gym, and whenever I went to the boxing gym, I felt safe.
Yeah, and just like with the boxing and just like sport in general,
yes,
creating that safe environment for kids that are coming forward that may not have the kind of success that we had at their age.
You always want your kids to be better than you. And when I say kids, our kids in our community, we want them to be better than us. I'm just hoping that something that I do here can help out our kids in some type of way.
Great-great-granddad be proud.
Yes.
And grandma, right?
You know, I like to say I represent, whole Canada.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
A couple of greats for sure. The CEO of the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame, Bruce Rainey, tells CBC that in its 60-year history, it had never received a nomination for an athlete from North Preston until this year.
But Provo and Johnson were, as he puts it, a slam dunk. Rainey says they were voted for induction on the first ballot in the same year that they were nominated.
All right, Hall of Famer Ryan Snoddon joins us now.
Weather Hall of Famer
Weather
for
Hall of Fame.
sure.
Listen, let's hope that this winter doesn't go down in the Hall of Fame for sure.
You may not get the ballots you need.
Well, that's it's true. So let's, before we look forward, look back, because we talked about how wet it was this weekend, and oh my goodness, did it come down at times?
Pouring
for
at
sure. Let's have a look at some of those totals from across the Maritimes, and you can see. So anywhere from 30 to 50 millimeters in the southwest, and I know you folks need it down there, so perhaps not quite as much as you were hoping for, but in the wheelhouse of the forecast. A little overachieving in through the Halifax area, 55 to 75, but all welcomed, of course, for Lake Major and of course, water restrictions, a shortage that has been in place there, and asking folks to conserve water, that is, for the Dartmouth side of things. And you can see Truro at 56, and while New Glasgow came in at 37, a couple of those local weather stations from our Coco Ross observers did report some locally higher totals here, and you can see across Cape Breton, generally between 50 and 65 millimeters, but we did see some locally higher totals here as well. Not quite as much on the Inverness side of things as expected. You can see light northwest flow has been certainly keeping temperatures seasonal for today. We can say that for sure. As we look at those winds sustained in the 20, 30, even 40 range at times today. Westport, of course, Digby Neck there a little bit stronger, sustained at 48. We're generally gusting in the 40 to 50 kilometer per hour range. We are looking at some gusts, as you can see there, closer to 60 in through the Caribou Point station. Okay, so still dealing with a couple of those isolated showers over the next little bit, pinwheeling around this low, which is on its way out, but we'll continue to see that chance for a shower over the next couple of hours, and then that low will continue to move out, and that shower chance will just decrease all the way until we get to tomorrow morning. Looking at this next low, moving over the Great Lakes, that's going to be our next one we're keeping an eye on, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. It is a quick mover, that's the good news, but will certainly impact us for the later Tuesday and into Wednesday timeframe. Okay, so temperatures tonight are going to be in that 2 to 5 range, so really not a huge change. Closer to 6 for Cape Breton, those northerly winds gusting 40 to 50 kilometers per hour, but they will ease towards tomorrow morning as that low continues to move out. There are those isolated shower chances along the Northumberland shore through this evening. Pretty quiet overnight. Some sunshine tomorrow morning for the Tri-County area in the western third of the province. That's going to be our best chance of a mix of sun and cloud tomorrow morning, but mostly cloudy into the afternoon as that next system approaches, and the clouds pretty dominant for most of the province tomorrow. Winds becoming southerly here, and a couple of showers starting to work their way in by the time we get to the late day tomorrow in through the Yarmouth area. We're going to see temperatures across Cape Breton tomorrow ranging from around 7 to 9 degrees, closer to 7 and 8 degrees for most of the mainland tomorrow. We're going to be seeing, looking at those winds becoming light into the afternoon, so still a bit of a northerly breeze for your commute to work tomorrow, but we will be watching those winds to back off into the afternoon. The winds becoming southerly for the western third, as we said, with that increasing clouds and maybe an evening shower, or certainly an evening shower, but right around the supper time hours, I think when we'll start to see that risk starting to increase. Now, Wednesday, showers in the morning and then gradual clearing from west to east as this system does start to depart. And you can see the timing of this. It's a pretty quick mover. This is what we wanted right after 10 days to 2 weeks really of just this blocked pattern. Now we're looking at systems coming and systems going. And you can see Wednesday, some showers lingering in the morning and even into the afternoon, but we're clearing from west to east throughout the afternoon and evening. There's that area of high pressure tucking in for Thursday, and this is that next system. And accumulating snow looking most likely for New Brunswick Thursday night, but could see some accumulation places like the Cobequid Pass and the higher terrain areas of Nova Scotia Thursday night into Friday morning. So if you travel through one of those spots that you know in the past has been prone to some of that higher accumulation snow, Friday morning, a heads up on that we'll keep you posted, but it does look like that is certainly potential is there with temperatures near the freezing mark Friday morning. That system kicks out, and we're looking at some lingering showers and flurries Saturday, a little less so on Sunday, but the possibility is there with temperatures feeling very late November-like.
For sure. Okay, Ryan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Coming up, she's celebrating her life before her death. Why this Halifax artist chose to have a living funeral.
Friends and family of a well-known Halifax artist and disability advocate recently came together to celebrate her life before her death.
April Hubbard will end her life through medical assistance in dying in the coming months. after decades of severe chronic pain and other medical challenges. CBC's Cassidy Chisholm has that story.
I just picture curling up with all the people I love around me and holding their hands and saying my final goodbyes to them and just having real joyful moments with the people that I love most.
This is April Hubbard, the one in the car, waving. At 39 years old, she was selected as the Halifax Pride Ambassador for 2024. Being a dedicated local artist and disability advocate, some in the crowd might recognize her. But what they may not know is that in this moment, she was already approved for medical assistance in dying, or MAID.
It was a really special moment to be able to go into it from the very beginning, planning that all these experiences would be my last. But it was really hard to have the mixed feelings of wanting to be at everything and wanting to do so much and knowing that my body couldn't necessarily keep up with that.
April was diagnosed with a tethered spinal cord at 17 and has been living with severe chronic pain ever since, which has been getting increasingly worse over the years. Her doctors have tried surgeries, medication, and other treatments to address her symptoms and pain. She even sent her medical file to institutions around the world, but nothing has worked.
I just had to adapt the idea that pain was going to be something I had to live with, and that I was slowly losing the use of my legs. A few years after that, I started noticing that I was having a lot more neurological symptoms further up. I had trouble with language often and finding the right word. I'd forget people's names. So yeah, there's a lot of different factors to the degenerative condition that I have, but I knew it would always it would get to the point someday where it was no longer something that I wanted to live with. I fought off the decision to apply for medical assistance in dying for a really long time. After I had my relapse in the fall of 2022, I could no longer work, I could no longer make art, I could no longer do a lot of the activities that really brought me joy and meaning in my life. And I was losing the ability to advocate, which was such a big part of who I was for so many years. There's the big physical things like my circus career and sailing and water skiing. Those are definitely very dangerous for me to try now. So that's been lost from my world. Making art is another big one. I used to find that creativity was something that really fed my soul, and I was always dreaming up the next project that I wanted to create. But I don't have the energy to do that anymore. So I had a really big fear that I would have another change in my health and that I would be trapped at that point and stuck in a hospital bed and not being able to communicate my own wishes and desires and just not being able to get out of that situation. And I knew that was not something that I wanted.
Good evening. How are we all doing this evening? I've been told by our guest of honor that I am allowed to make obscenely inappropriate jokes this evening. Couldn't you just die? Oh. We are here for the living funeral of April Hubbard.
At first, I didn't think I wanted to have a funeral at all, but the more I moved closer to my death and the more I really started to think about what that meant, I felt like I still needed to say goodbye in some way, especially to my arts community and my advocacy community, and really have a moment where all those aspects of my life that have been so separate for so many years could be brought together and people could really see who April Hubbard was as a whole.
Just as April wanted, it was a night of drag and burlesque, storytelling and dance, and even a circus performance with a surprise guest.
So fun facts. It's been almost exactly 1 year since I've done a trapeze solo. It's been 2 years, almost exactly, since I had the privilege of performing with April. And it's been 5 years since you and I have touched a trapeze together.
But that's about to change. April is going to join Vanessa as long as her body allows.
really unsure even up to the last minute if it was something I was going to be able to do, so I had told almost nobody, but it was so healing, and to just be able to look at her from up in the air again and really have that moment of closure and goodbye, it meant so much, and very much like what the living funeral meant for me. It was that moment to say goodbye.
How dare I take up space, but here I'm here and I am powerful, powerful.
We met in a theater space where we were both kind of in a bit of an advocacy position, and so we really bonded over like mutually supporting each other, even though we don't have the same disabilities or the same experiences moving through the world. We both have like kind of instantly we're like, yeah, but I got your back.
You know, when you meet someone new, it's hard, you can't be yourself, but with April, you can be yourself.
The thing is, I want her to know that she's so loved and she's touched so many people in so many spaces that I don't think anyone within the arts community of Halifax can walk into a space and say that they haven't even heard of April. Like, that's the impact that she's created.
With her funeral behind her, tough decisions are now in front of April. She has yet to choose what she's calling her final exit date, but she knows it will come.
I've pushed really hard these last few months, almost a year now, to try to make it through all the milestones that I still wanted to hit, but each one has become a little more difficult along the way. So knowing that it's getting closer now, and that I've started doing a lot of the steps I need to say my final goodbyes and be ready, it's starting to feel more real, but also that's comforting to me now. What I think and imagine my death will look like right now is that I want to choose one of the local theaters that I've given so much time and love to. Those are the places that feel like home to me, and a great black box theater that I can transform into whatever environment I want it to be, and having lighting and music and a ton of pillows, and I just picture curling up with all the people I love around me and holding their hands and saying my final goodbyes to them, and just having real joyful moments with the people that I love most. I jokingly say I want it to be the best cuddle puddle ever. Yeah, I just want to feel love in my final moments.
Cassidy Chisholm, CBC News, Halifax.
Coming up, the Prime Minister says Canada is on a path to meeting the 2% spending target for NATO.
Welcome back. This is the final day of a big NATO meeting being held here in Canada, the Alliance's 70th annual meeting of parliamentarians. Hundreds of officials have been discussing a wide range of issues, including the war in Ukraine and the return of Donald Trump to the world stage.
But today, much of the spotlight was on Canada and our nation's failure to live up to a key NATO requirement. Kate McKenna reports.
At a meeting of NATO parliamentarians in Montreal, Justin Trudeau addressed the political elephant in the room, Canada's failure to meet its defense spending commitment.
We are on a clear path to reach 2% in the coming years because we know that the world is changing and Canada, along with our allies, needs to be ready for it.
American allies are once again criticizing Canada for being one of the last NATO countries to hit the defense spending obligation of 2% of GDP for each member of the alliance. Canada has said it could hit that target by 2032. Adding to the pressure, Donald Trump has said he wants all NATO countries to commit to 3%.
I do not speak for the President of the United States, the President-elect of the United States. If he were in this room, you would get a very large guffaw from him. I'm talking about 2032. It's got to be better than that. It truly, truly has to be better than that.
A business lobby group says Canada's lagging spending has an impact beyond defense.
It has Canada being outside of a lot of rooms where people who are committed, who understand the risks that the world is facing, are getting together and talking. And that's not good for Canada to be left out of a room like that. We need to earn our way in now.
Canada is far from the target, spending only 1.37% of GDP this year, one of only 8 member countries that haven't hit the 2% commitment. Defense Minister Bill Blair says he's open to moving faster.
They want us to go faster, and I'm ready to go faster. They want a commitment from us that we're going to spend what is required, and I agree completely, and I've said yes.
The defense minister didn't say how the government could hit that target sooner. To do so, the parliamentary budget officer says the government would have to almost double defense spending to about $82 billion. Money that would have to come from somewhere else. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
It looks like Donald Trump's election victory has turned into a legal victory as well. This afternoon, federal prosecutors asked for 2 criminal cases against the president-elect to be dropped. U.S. Special Counsel Jack Smith filed a motion asking a judge to drop felony charges against Trump for allegedly trying to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election, which culminated in the attack on the U.S. Capitol. Smith's team also asked to abandon another criminal case against Trump for illegally holding onto classified documents after the end of his first presidency. Prosecutors said both cases are being dropped because of a long-standing Justice Department policy that a sitting president should not face federal charges. But they also said it does not change the gravity of the alleged crimes, the strength of the government's case, or the merits of the prosecution. Trump's team is calling today's development a major victory. A ceasefire deal between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon appears to be within reach. The Israeli ambassador to Washington says it could happen within days. And another Israeli official says the cabinet will meet tomorrow to discuss it. Tom Perry has the latest.
This is a U.S. brokered ceasefire agreement. We've seen Amos Hochstein, that's the U.S. envoy. He's been here in Israel, he's been in Lebanon, trying to bring the two sides together. We saw Josep Borrell, the EU's foreign policy chief in Beirut, talking about the importance of the deal, talking as well, though, about obstacles, how some people don't want a deal. Now, he didn't name names, but Itamar Ben-Gvir, that's Benjamin Netanyahu's far-right national security minister, he went on social media today and he said that Israel was passing up what he called an historic opportunity to eradicate Hezbollah, and he says that we must continue until absolute victory. So there is some reluctance on the part of some members of Benjamin Netanyahu's government. He may hear about that when he meets with his cabinet. This war between Hezbollah and Israel, there's been over 3,000 people killed in Lebanon through Israeli airstrikes and the Israeli ground incursion into southern Lebanon. Here in Israel, there have been 44 civilians killed in rocket strikes, and there have been 71 members of the Israel Defense Force killed in skirmishes in southern Lebanon. On top of that, there's been 60,000 Israelis forced out of their homes by the incoming rockets from Hezbollah that they've been launching into Israel since really the day after Hamas's October 7th attack.
So we are moving forward on this front. As I said many times, our goal was very clear
which is to push Hezbollah north of the Litani River. We haven't finalized it, but we are moving forward. I assume that the cabinet will meet today or tomorrow to discuss it. And I think for us it's important what will happen after, that Hezbollah will not be allowed to come back to the fence, and we will do whatever is necessary to guarantee it. We learned the lessons from 2006.
So there are still issues that need to be ironed out, but there does seem to be movement on this deal. Keep in mind, though, that even if there is a ceasefire with Hezbollah, that the war in Gaza between Israel and Hamas, that continues. There's been a horrible civilian toll down there, and right now that war doesn't appear to be ending anytime soon. Tom Perry, CBC News, Jerusalem.
If your flight is canceled and you expect to be compensated, you may be in for a bigger fight than you expected. A BC couple is going public after WestJet canceled their flight, argued over their claim, and tried to silence them online. Erica Johnson has their story.
We should do another of these cruises.
Russell and Anna Gurney pore over a photo book, a memento from a San Diego cruise they almost missed. WestJet canceled their flight, rebooked them on another flight leaving 2 days later.
Accepting that itinerary meant we would have missed the cruise ship.
The couple found tickets on an Air Canada flight that would get them to San Diego on time, but they were $1,500 more. So they filed a claim with WestJet for compensation. When the airline refused, the Gurneys took their case to small claims court. Soon they were dealing with a lawyer for WestJet, posted correspondence on a Facebook group for air passengers. When the law firm discovered the post, a lawyer asked Gurney to take it down and said WestJet's withdrawing its settlement offer for sharing what it called confidential settlement discussions.
You're an average person going up against a legal firm that represents a huge airline.
The founder of that air passenger website says he's troubled by a growing trend. Airlines trying to silence passengers seeking compensation.
They're trying to intimidate passengers. They want to make you feel that they are doing you a favor by paying what is owed to you anyway.
Even disputes handled by the regulator are shrouded in secrecy. When WestJet damaged Tim Rogers' bag and refused to pay replacement costs, he took the case to the regulator, won, and posted the CTA's decision to that Facebook group. Then he got a call from the regulator telling him that decision can't be made public.
It sounds like they're trying to make it easier for the airlines.
Full CTA decisions used to be posted online, but legislative changes last year made most details confidential.
I think it violates the Charter, I think it's probably unconstitutional, and that's the real source of the problem here.
A spokesperson for Transport Canada said the new rules make settling disputes more efficient. As for WestJet, it told Go Public it was following the rules, and in the end it did settle with the Gurneys, but to get their money, made them sign a non-disclosure agreement. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Yeah, lots of rain for some folks and much needed rain for sure.
Yep, but as you said, a decent day tomorrow to go to the polls.
Yeah, that's right. Good day for polls and a good day for voting, that is. And we are going to be looking at some wet weather tracking back in tomorrow night, but then it clears again. So goodbye blocking pattern, at least for now.
Change it up.
We know it'll be back, but yes, nice to change it up. Have a look at our viewer picture of the day. And this one, we're going to zoom in on the Halifax area. And a nice spot here, Brookside.
Oh, how pretty.
Nice reflection shot. Peter, thank you so much. This one probably from the archives.
Yeah, I would think the leaves are still hanging on there.
Full of evidence there that it is.
Still, it's still beautiful.
Absolutely. Love the archive pics at this time of year, especially with so much cloud and rain, and it has been difficult to get some pics. So love that folks are dipping into their own archives and sharing with us. Ryan's pics at CBC.ca. Temperatures tomorrow across the mainland ranging between 6 and 8 degrees. Those winds relatively light, becoming southerly for Yarmouth, Shelburne, and Digby. Those light winds across most of the mainland. Northerly winds for Cape Breton, still gusting 30 to 40 in the morning, will become lighter into the afternoon. For Wednesday, we'll see those showers clearing from west to east with temperatures in the 8-9 degree range. Let's time it out. There's our next system approaching from the west. Again, late day arrival, but it is a quick mover from west to east, no blocking, and it's gone again. And then we're watching that system for Thursday night in through Friday that may have some snow involved.
All right, well warned. You may already be in the holiday spirit, but in the U.S., today is the unofficial start of the festive season. Take a look at this.
I hereby pardon Peach and Blossom.
U.S. President Joe Biden officially spared 2 lucky turkeys from becoming part of a Thanksgiving dinner this year. Peach enjoying all the attention while Blossom was hiding from the cameras. They'll spend the rest of their days at a farm in Minnesota.
The turkey pardon has been an annual event at the White House since the 1980s, but the origin seems to date back to Abraham Lincoln, who apparently spared a pet turkey at the urging of his son.
All right, and well, before we go, just another reminder that tomorrow after the 6 o'clock show, we will be live at the legislature for Nova Scotia votes.
That starts at 8 o'clock Atlantic time when the polls close, and Tom and I will be joined by reporters from across the province and a panel of political experts.
And that is it for us tonight. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.
Good night.
Good night.